I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Hi.
I'm Mike Delisio.
And I'm Roy Kennedy.
Welcome to Dice Tower Reroll, where we take a look back at something that one of us has likely reviewed in the past, and all of us have played and go back over it. And today we're talking about the most popular game probably to come out in the past couple years, and that's Wingspan.
Right. I
know it's popular. I was at my store last night. They just got a copy of it, and he was sure it would sell out before the day was over.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wingspan is a game, if you haven't seen, from Elizabeth Hargrave and Stonemaier Games, and it's about birds and collecting birds. Actually, what is the theme of the game?
Watching, I'm guessing.
I thought you controlled an aviary, and you were trying to attract the best birds, the best grouping of birds to your aviary so that people... I don't think you're capturing them. I think it's just that they're coming to visit, that people would want to look at their beauty and splendor.
As you can see, very strong theming there.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know about that.
But the bird part of the theme works, right?
It does, yeah.
And so, first of all, it's a Stonemaier game, so I think, maybe you might disagree, components are pretty good.
They are
It's
good.
really nice.
The rule book is linen finished.
Yes.
That's insane.
It's pretty crazy.
Silky smooth.
Yeah, it feels like a plastic rule book.
Although I will say it bugs me a little bit, those eggs are fantastic. It bugs me that they're different colors
They don't mean
because
anything.
every time I teach the game, I have to explain that does not mean anything.
I only use the green eggs. I'm just like, get me this egg and get this and this. Yeah, you gotta have the green
Do you
eggs and
just
the
use
ham.
one color for your layout?
What do you mean?
Like when you play, do you only use one color on your...
For the birds? I always
the
grab
eggs,
the
yeah.
same eggs. Yeah.
You do really?
Yeah.
I just grab a handful of
I just
whatever's
get
in there,
eggs.
yeah.
I use chocolate eggs, and then they keep disappearing.
Like, oh, my score is dropping.
It's worth a point.
It would be awesome if there was a variant where it's
one-
like, to build the bird, you have to get the egg and eat it.
The one component I don't like the dice tower, which is really ironic.
Yeah.
But it after a lot of use, it's starting to fall apart. And I also found that throwing the dice in consistently into that tower, I thought was kind of a pain.
It's a little tough, the weight, because you usually have to wrap your hand around the back. You could,
Yeah.
to have the dice where everyone can see them, you have to reach behind it to do, and that could be a little bit...
I do wish it was simply open at the top.
Right.
But it is a thematic piece they included. It doesn't really need to be in there. It adds to the table presence for what's basically just a card game.
Right.
And I think it does it well. I think it looks good. It's well produced, for what it is, a cardboard dice tower. I just wish it was more user-friendly. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, even though the game is very nicely produced, there is a plethora of ways you can still upgrade it. The little cubes.
Sure.
Turn them into birds from meeple stores. I've seen people buy little nests to hold
Right.
the eggs in.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of different upgrades for the game itself, but
for sure.
you don't need them.
No, because just in the box, he included the little component bins, so you can put the eggs in those little plastic. Those came in the box. The little tray lid where the cards are, where you can display the cards, that's in the box.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So really, it almost feels like a deluxe version as it is. I mean, other than the cardboard food tokens, those feel like they need an upgrade, and so I did upgrade mine. But otherwise, I thought the other components were nice out of the box.
I think the worst component in the box is the cubes.
Right.
That are your
that's true.
sort of worker placement,
true.
your action selection cubes.
Yeah.
They are not great. They're kind of small.
Yeah.
They feel like a throwaway component.
Sure.
They're like the last thing that was thought about, and that kind of comes across. I wish those were a little bit better.
And it's
I
also
would even take I think a cardboard token with a player color, an illustration, a something over just the cubes feel generic.
And it's one of the things you touch the most in the game.
true.
It's like, I'm
Right.
taking the action, I'm taking the action, I'm taking the action. It's kind of one of the things you wish was a little bit like the nicest thing, because you're always using it.
Yeah, like the eggs could be a little less fancy, and the thing you actually manipulate
The
a lot.
first time I
could be
played
nice.
was with Tom's upgraded copy, and it has actual birds for each of those. I was like, I'm moving a little bird across, and then I played Mike's busted copy with the little cubes. And I was like, what is this? It comes with cubes?
factory
Oh.
model.
That's
Disgusting.
right. Yeah. He refused to play it, but no, it's all right.
I'm pretty sure I played it, and it went pretty well. So.
It did.
A lot of people like the engine building of it. That's one of the very attractive things to it. Another thing a lot of people like is the theme. I find it fascinating. I see more complaints about the theme of this game than many others. I'll see someone on the internet going, I'm just not interested in birds. And yet
I
the
find that
game has
crazy.
sold, what, tons of copies.
Yeah, about
proving,
300,000 copies, I think it is.
proving that just straight up wrong, right? That
Right.
people do like this theme. And I actually think this game is important for that reason, that we can
agree.
talk about these other themes. It doesn't have to be dungeon, zombie, trading in the Mediterranean, which seem to be the three.
I love that not only does it have like a different theme that's not like always the same, but it also has like little, like it's actually mechanics in the game, like the weight of the birds and like wingspan of the birds and all that stuff is part of the actual game, and like what different types of food the birds eat. It feels like not only are you playing a game, you're kind of like learning a little bit about these different birds as you play it. So not only does it take a completely different theme that like you don't normally see in board games, but also kind of makes it slightly educational as you play.
I think it's clear that a lot of care went into it.
Sure.
You know, I like that. Whatever theme you pick, if it's apparent to your players that you spent the time to dig into that theme, it's more appreciated as opposed to a copy paste of, like, if I play your game and it's apparent that you happened to pick pictures of, ships from the Middle Ages instead of spaceships from sci-fi universe. It could have been the other one. If it could have been, it feels a little cheaper, But you're right. It's they tell you where in the world that bird is found. Wing, the size of the bird, the food. I mean, so many things that are particular, and it's that sort of final thing that makes you go, I'm not that into birds. The person who made this is. I appreciate that. I like that about it.
Well, to put this in context, let's run the gamut here and see where we are and how much we like or dislike the game. So we'll start with Mike. I think you might like it the most. I don't know. Like just quick 1 through 10-ish, or how much you like it.
Yeah, no, I'm guessing I like it the most. I have it between the 8 and 9 range. I think it's for a number of reasons, I think it's a really, really good game.
Okay, so you like it a lot. What about you?
I do like it a lot. It's grown on me. The very first time I played, I thought it was fine. That I was coming into it sort of under the weight of this bombastic amount of hype.
Sure.
I played it, I thought, it's fine. Why is everyone losing their minds?
Yeah.
And having absorbed that and sort of let it pass, I do think it's a good game. I mean, it is clearly a work of love. It's well produced. I would rate it about an 8.5 also.
Oh, I guess there's not going to be that much difference because I'm there too. I was very fortunate with this one that when he sent it to me, there was no hype as of yet.
Right.
So I was just like, oh, this looks cool, let's play it. And then I was like, wow, this is really good. I was the hype.
It was your fault that I didn't
No,
like
it's
it
not.
at first. Yeah.
What about you?
I know that I've played this the least out of everybody here. I know I saw it on the cruise last year for the first time, and everybody was buzzing about it. And one of the main reasons I haven't been able to play it is because it's hard to get a copy of.
Yes.
And it's just like, even in like our library, it's just always checked out. So finally, during this cruise, I got to actually play it, and I played it with Mike since then after, and I've really enjoyed it as well. I think probably like 7.5, but I haven't played it as much.
Garbage!
And I feel like if I played it more, I could maybe like it more. But also, this isn't the kind of game that's super in my wheelhouse, but I did really enjoy the engine building aspect of it and gathering the resources, and I like the theme and how thematic it is to that theme. It's really cool.
And it's a pretty simple game, too.
Yes.
And that's what I think that it's a game that has wide appeal.
I think so.
Even people that are quote-unquote hardcore gamers, I think they can find something to like in the game if they have an open mind, if they're willing to try something a little bit different. I've seen it go over well with people that don't play games very often. It's not, I want to be clear though, this is not a gateway game. If people have not
think so.
If people have not played modern board games, they're going to have a significant learning curve because things that we as gamers take for granted, mechanics that we take for granted, they will never have seen before. And so I would hesitate to say this is a gateway game. However, I do think it's a game that has a potential to bring people into the hobby if they're willing to kind of go through that learning curve. Because even the way they set up the goal board, where you have goals that you're going for, and you can play a more aggressive style where people are directly competing with each other, or you can play one where everybody who gets a certain range is going to get those points. So it's a little bit less confrontational, which fits with that theme, I think. So I've seen this go over well with so many different types of people. That's why I think it's doing so well, and that's why I've been saying I think it's going to be a top 10 game. I know that that's not where it's at yet, but I think this, I keep wanting to say it has legs. I think this game has wings. I think it's going to be
let me have 'em!
I will say, I think I agree with you that it is not a gateway, like sort of like one of the first games you'd play if you're not into games. But it is one of the most user-friendly games I have seen in a long time. It is so very well thought out, and they give you reminders of how things will work and how all these gears work together all over the place.
Yes.
To the point that if you get a new printing even, there is now that sort of Swift starter pack or whatever they call it, with everyone getting a big chunk of cardboard, completely useless after you learn the game, by the way, that walks you through your first 4 turns.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that.
It is a very, very user-friendly game. It's clear that a lot of trouble has gone into and thought into making the game easy to get into and then get going. So I got to give it kudos for that.
Is there anything that anyone doesn't like about the game?
I think there is an issue. People have talked about it. I do think that there is an issue with the last couple of turns.
Yeah.
You want to play eggs oftentimes. You want to get eggs because those are points. And if you're in a position where you realize, I can't get these birds, or even I can get this bird out into my tableau, but
it's not
if
worth
I
enough
just
points.
get eggs, then I know if I'm at a point where I can get 3 eggs every time I take that action, that's 3 points in action. And if I have 2 actions left, I know that I can get 6 points rather than building it up to get this bird out there. I've seen people complain about that, and potentially. Now, I will say that I think that they've addressed that a bit with the expansion. There is already one expansion. There will be more, where they
Yes.
focused the goals in such a way that you may not want to just go for eggs. So I do think it's something that they're addressing, but it is an issue. It's an issue.
I think my only issue, I'm sorry to jump in here before I forget it, some of those goals that you are trying to hit at the end of every round, you just might not see birds that qualify for those. That's the only thing I think I can think of. I've seen
the
it
same
happen
sort of thing
already.
can happen with cards in your hand, but the cool thing is, or the personal goals, the cool thing with the personal goals is it says a percentage of those birds at the bottom of the personal goals.
And you
which I
haven't
think is
read
a
at the
really
beginning.
good touch. And it's like, but I played a game where it's like, I really wanted to get guys that ate the mice or the vermin or whatever. And like, I saw like one the whole game. And I was trying to dig and draw for other ones. I was always drawing off top of the deck to try to find it. And it just didn't happen just because it was a very low percentage goal. But it's just kind of interesting.
You chose to keep that one knowing it was a low percentage.
Yeah, but out of the 2 that I had, sometimes it's just the way it is in games.
Yeah,
sure.
But it is cool that it actually has a percentage on there.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, there's a luck thing of you might not get the birds you need for your goals. But it's still cool to try to figure out how to make the engine work regardless of that.
Yeah.
I had 2 minor problems. One is you mentioned the gold tiles. I thought were a little samey.
Yes.
The expansion really fixed that problem.
Oh,
It
really?
added,
I
like,
haven't played the expansion.
It added,
myself.
just added like 5 more.
Right.
So now there's a better mix of those things.
Yep.
The other problem I have is there's this little wonky rule, just a little bit, it bugs me all the time, about the rolling of dice, and it's just not intuitive.
Correct.
When do you re-roll dice?
You reroll when they're all out, which is rare.
Right.
Right.
Or when you're about to take food and they're all the same, the ones that are left in it, you may reroll.
Right, but it's not when there's 1 die left, it's when they're all the same and there's 3, or sometimes you re-roll even if you want that food.
Right.
I just felt like that doesn't feel super clean. I don't know
I
how to
agree.
explain it.
It's
I'll
not,
give you that.
and there
I thought
are-
it was fun though. When I played with Mike, it was very thinky because I would be like, okay, I want to take a food, but I don't know if I'm going to take it yet because maybe Mike will re-roll it, or maybe I want to take the food in the correct way so that he doesn't get a chance to re-roll and have more options.
Yes.
So when you're playing that 2-player game, it can be really tight with that whole re-roll mechanism of being like, I want to take the food now, but I'm going to take the one that there's multiples of, so that there's still 2 left, so that when he takes one, now I'm going to do this. I think it's very clever the way the re-roll mechanic works.
And on top of that, a part that I think compounds the fact that it's a cool system, though I will give you it's kind of clunky, is that some of the birds roll the dice that are outside the feeder
Correct.
to look for something specific and snatch it up and make it a point, right? That's cool, because then you're really playing an interesting timing game. 'Cause you want to trigger that line and have that bird activate when most of the dice are outside.
Right.
And you have a much better chance to roll a vermin or
But you're
whatever.
both bringing up a point that I want to talk about, and that's you're both talking about this very specifically in a 2-player game.
Right.
You
True.
can't do any of this
True.
sort of timing in a 5-player game.
No, you can't.
You just take your
Absolutely.
turn.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you then about scalability. You like it best with 2?
For sure. Yeah.
Oof. I think it's a different game at 2. I don't know that I like it better. I have played it at 5, and I wasn't a huge fan of that.
5's too many in my opinion.
Yeah, there was just
for almost every game.
too much downtime, and you're right that it just didn't work. I don't think as well. I really think 2 to 3 maybe is the sweet spot for me.
We played with 4 in my first game, and the thing I liked about playing with more is that the birds in the little row here were mixing up more.
That's true.
When you play 2 players, that gets mixed a lot less, and then you're like, the same 3 birds on my turn, the same 3 birds on my turn.
You are getting, you sort of just
you have to top
decking,
deck from the deck a little bit more.
This is true.
But I don't know. I think it's different at different player counts, but I don't think I like it more or less either way.
I think it's actually more of a quote-unquote gateway game with more players.
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
because
you have less
it is
control.
more random.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it scales okay, but I think it's a different game at 2. You guys
It
are
is.
talking very strategic, but with 4, it's still strategic. I'm just having a good old time.
Right.
Yes. Given, yeah.
My favorite thing about the game is that every single card's different.
Yes.
That to me is mind-blowing. Not just that they're all different art, which is also amazing,
Right.
but that every bird is different, and they're different types. There's
Yes.
birds that eat other birds, there's things, and they added a couple new types in the expansion, which I thought was nice.
Yeah.
This is cycling in, but nothing that I never felt overwhelmed.
No.
I never had to look up and say, what does this bird do? No, just a different combination of the different things out there. Some birds have a lot of egg space. Some are just straight up points.
Right.
Some let you do something, in the expansion they let you do something after someone else's turn, which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
So my favorite thing about the game is the variety.
Yeah, me too. I do have a small issue now with you talking about having to look something up. I did have to look up one thing. That glossary is a little tricky to handle, but it's in there, and there's a ton of information all over it. One minor thing that I have an issue with is if you buy a newer copy and you have that Swift Start Pack, there's 10 extra cards in it. They are not in that rule book. So you're just their powers are repetitions. The birds are unique, but their powers have been seen on other cards. So when you shuffle them in, this happened. I just got unlucky, I guess. I had to look up a card to make sure I knew what the power was. Well, it happened to be one of those 10 cards, and that bird by name is not listed in the book.
Wait, I'm out of this one. What 10 cards are we talking about?
Yeah, I'm new to this too.
If you buy a copy of it now, it includes, like I said, a Swift Start Pack. It's 10 extra cards, and these big boards that say Player 1, these are your first 4 turns.
Gosh, that's crazy.
You don't even touch the main deck, you just play with those little 10 cards, and just teaches you how to play the game.
Are you supposed to even shuffle those in?
You shuffle them in afterwards. They're just extra birds.
Yeah, that's new to me too.
There's no reason for you not to shuffle them in. You can do it. I assume. I don't know why you wouldn't. Those cards, I happened to need to look one up that wasn't listed, so I just couldn't find the name of the bird. I couldn't find it. It's not in there.
Gotcha.
Very corner case. I get it. Nothing you can do about it, I guess, at this point. So yeah. The book I think is useful. That glossary, that guide, if a little dense. It's sort of hard to figure out You got to look through the whole thing to find one named bird and see what it does.
All right, well, let's jump to final thoughts on the game. Is it worth the hype?
I thought it was really cool. This had been super hyped for me, and it took me forever to get to play it. Everybody kept saying, "Oh, you haven't played Wingspan yet. Oh, you haven't played Wingspan." I was like, I need to sit down and play this game. I finally played it, and I actually really enjoyed it. So there's that. After all the hype, I still thought it was cool.
And you?
I think it's a lovely game. I do think it's better with fewer players. I think it's a little bit. There's just less control and less ability to do what you feel like you want to do with more players. But I think it is a gorgeous, very well made game, a lovely theme. It's a game that feels of its own. It's its own world. It's a very gentle, welcoming, beautiful game. Yeah, I can see where the hype comes from, I get it. I wouldn't, if you'd never played, I would be mindful about going into it thinking it's the absolute best game ever made. That happened to me to a degree, and I sort of came away with it going, it's just another engine building game. Which it is, but it is a very nice one. It's lovely.
I think it's not only a good game, I do think it's an important game without trying to get too hyperbolic. I think it's important in the sense that I think it can be almost like a Catan, where it brings a lot of people exposure to games that they may not have known that these types of games were out there. And I think that that's important. It's always, I think every generation has, and this isn't the only one, but I think this is one of the games that could get people into the hobby, and I think that's a good thing. I agree with you. I think that if you go into it expecting it to do something different, it really doesn't do a lot different. I mean, it's not necessarily innovative. What it is a really clean design that does not overstay its welcome. Maybe at 5 it does, but otherwise it doesn't overstay its welcome. It looks lovely. It's very satisfying to play. I mean, I always feel satisfied when I'm done.
Right.
I don't know how to quantify that other than I feel satisfied. I enjoyed my experience. I just think it's a really nice little game.
I like games that have an every-person theme to them. That's why I've always been a big fan of teaching new people Pandemic, because we're all stopping viruses, and that's something people can understand and like. And you might not like zombies, you might not like medieval castles, but you probably like that.
And
that's
you understand it. That's a thing.
Right, that's how Wingspan is for me. I'm not showing you some weird thing. You're like, oh, is this a nerd thing? No, it's about birds, which is a nerd thing, but still, it's one that people accept. And again, the art and components help a lot. And I think there is some unique things to the game in how the more you have, the better your actions get. I mean, it's a nice variation on that. It doesn't reach the heights of some engine builders like Race for the Galaxy does for me, but this might get played more because it's more accessible to people. So,
right.
There you go, folks. If you have comments about Wingspan, definitely let us know in the comments below. And you can always go, if you want to see how it's played, you can check out the original review for it. But until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia.
I'm Mike Alicio.
And I'm Roy Kennedy.
Have fun gaming and flying.